All right, we're back for part four, and just want to start by kind of showing the view out here. So there's that water tower I was talking about in the previous video. That was actually what was called the 7 Up Water Tower. Placement was right about there, and there's our courthouse. You'll notice I've got the beginnings of the decks going in. That's really what we're going to be focusing on today is the decks there. But just having that little bit of these buildings visible above the top of the wall here just creates a little bit of depth. It's nothing too crazy, but as you come out here, if there's cutaways or whatever, you do start to see these stands up here. But for my own, you know, OCD or whatever you want to call it. I do like to build a couple of blocks worth of worth of buildings, kind of going outside of the stadium here. So you can see there's that park that I talked about, the courthouse. We do have a taller building that's in kind of the far background. So I just set that taller building and sunk it down to the ground a little bit so it wasn't too um, you know dominating in the skyline. But you've got this stuff out there, and again, you're not going to be able to see all of it. But if you catch glimpses of the tops of the roofs, it can be pretty cool. So the other thing I did was I kind of lowered this wall a little bit so it wasn't so high. So figuring maybe 10 or 12 feet maybe over the tops of the seats, which is actually probably still maybe a little bit high, but wanted to be able to see some text on these signs out here, and then installed the old no betting sign that was there in the 50s. So installed the scoreboard, and again came around to the edge with this sign here. So again, the remainder of this video, I want to really kind of focus on putting in the upper decks, and I think the trick with this is making sure that when you're taking a look at the website again, that andrewclem.com, you find your stadium typically on the left-hand side of the stadium diagram. There's a profile view of the stadium, which can be really helpful in terms of just getting this stuff right. And in this Yankee Stadium, especially when you got out into the outfield, came around the corner, the upper deck hung almost directly over the wall. It was real close, and then there really wasn't much space between the upper deck and the second level, mezzanine level, whatever you want to call it. So I do have this kind of scrubbed in here, but I'll go through, what I started with. So first I'm always going to start with the outermost part. And make sure that this height is right. So I started with this mezzanine, so I'll use the plaza level deck. I think that's yeah. So I'm using the classic style. Keep the dark green. Again, I'll defer to SDS on this one, or plead with SDS. Give us the ability to change the face colors of some of these things. But for the purpose of this one, I'm going to go with the dark green. And starting with this plaza level and just making sure that that's lined up. And again, taking a look at that profile, not a ton of height there. The stands went well up underneath that plaza level. And then, from there, you're basically just going to follow, the same width as the piece below it. So for this one, you can kind of see the white outline there, the checkered white outline. That's that classic field level 3. That corresponds with the plaza level 4. I don't know why they don't just keep the numbers the same. And then basically going to do the upper deck level. I believe it's upper deck level 2 is the same width as these. So when you keep that same width, it ends up creating a really nice shape for you. And then here is where we started to get a little bit of that overlap stuff. So this you kind of got to blend these a little bit, but so you can see that I went with the smaller kind of corner piece, and then the larger one coming around all the way around. So the lock is a really important thing here. So, or the snapping. So what I want to make sure of is that when I'm selecting my piece, I'm holding my R1 button and moving over to the left and hitting X to snap the prop. Yeah, that will really help, you avoid having any kind of, ridges or anything like that. Something like that could drive me nuts, right? That little bit of a gap there. So I want to make sure all that stuff is closed up. I don't have any seams, and it also makes sure that your heights all stay the same. So you're basically just going to follow this around, follow this line around, and then, I do like to use these, I think it's number one. Let me just, I'll click on it. Yeah, so the classic plaza level one, and then this is the classic upper deck one. I do like to use these because, if you come in above them, you can actually see, kind of where the center point is on the lower deck, the field level. And then it's pretty easy to see where the center points are there too. And the other thing I like about these is that these stack up on top of each other pretty well. So when you put these in here initially, they probably will snap in the wrong spot. So you can kind of just, get them close to where you want them. And then as you come around and you're snapping all your pieces together, you're just going to get everything in line. It ends up fitting really, really nice. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to build out the rest of this wraparound over here. So this deck was a little bit funny. The upper deck, I mean, obviously comes to the edge of this, but the seats are almost facing the other corner. They don't wrap around as much as they did down, on the right field side. The other thing I'm going to do with the upper deck is I am going to extend that. So I'm just going to take this same piece, right? So this is, here, I'll delete this one right here. So I'm just going to take this same piece. I'm going to hold my L1 button. I'm going to hit X to clone it. And I'm just going to keep holding L1, and I'm going to use my left stick up to raise the level of that. And then I can push that back and basically just raise the level of the upper deck. If I want to have this bar in here, right here, I can. It's totally up to you. If I kind of like to drop that down a little bit so it's not as visible. And then just make sure my sides are lined up, and I'm good to go. So it just creates a little bit more depth in that upper deck, which, certainly Yankee Stadium had. It was a really, really tall upper deck. So it does take a little finagling, especially up around this piece here, because you can't just copy this one and put it up there. It doesn't look right. You see kind of how terrible that looks. So you gotta do some finagling. But at the end of the day, it does look pretty good. So let's go ahead and extend this mezzanine or this plaza level deck a little bit further out here. So we're just going to hit our our square, and do our best to get this to match up with the first row, which this is the row that I'm referring to right here. So I'm going to snap this. And look at that. Okay. So I'm going to now take this, and if I clone this, you'll see that it extends a little bit too far. So if I go over to the next one, Plaza level 4, that's going to match up pretty well. I'm going to come down the rest of the line with this. And now this is where I'm going to start making my turn. So you'll see I've got, those corner pieces in there. So this is the corresponding piece here, number 5. Although you can see that I'm going to start getting a little bit too deep. It doesn't turn as much. So this is where I'm going to do a little bit of overlap. And I want to mind my corners back there. I don't want to have gaps in between the stands. So I'm kind of paying attention to this back corner up here. And then I want to make sure as I come down in here that this blends in. So this definitely does look a little bit funky, with the gates crossing. Not a ton that you can do about that. Sorry about the camera work there. But that's pretty good from an angle perspective. So I'll hook this, snap this next one. That's pretty good there. And now I'm just going to go back to my straight pieces. And I'll snap those in here like this. Although that angle's not the best, so I'm going to turn that a little bit so we'll have a little bit of a funky walkway there. And let me zoom in down here. And you can see, the white is a gap, right? That's what I want to avoid. So when I get that in there, I'm just going to feather that in there. And there we go. So we should be pretty good on our angle there now. And then you can see that this one does finish off with a curved piece. And there is a smaller, there it is, there's that smaller curved piece. So, so that's pretty good there. All right, and then kind of rinse and repeat with the upper deck. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to clone that. We are going to, this one should probably work pretty well. Sometimes this one doesn't snap properly. I don't know why. It worked for me today though. So we'll do that, and then we're going to go to our smaller one, which was the upper deck 2. And again, I'm just going to try to be cognizant, and you can follow along with these widths, and you should be in good shape. So I'm going to come around there like that. I'm going to grab my corner piece again, and again, this is where I've got to do a little bit of finagling, right? And try to get this tucked in here pretty well. I am going to have some overlap. But this is where I want to also make sure that, similar to the left field stands, you can see that this section back here really, these are pretty even over here. But as we get into the outfield, this overhang really happens. We want to make sure that that does the same thing here. So what I may do is turn this one into a corner piece. And now as I come around, there we go. See, I'm creating a little bit more depth there, which is exactly what I want to do. I don't like that angle, but I do like that depth of that. So I'm going to use this piece, and I'm going to come in here. Again, I got to make sure that I don't have my gaps. But I'm not messing with the, see that little line in there? But what I'm not going to do is I don't want to mess with the height of anything, right? Because the height, that's obviously going to be constant throughout. Take this, that in there like that, and then this last piece, I'll have a little bit of overlap, but my overhang is pretty decent. So, so if I zoom out here, if I get up above the stadium, now I've got what is starting to really look like Yankee Stadium, right? I've got the upper deck, I've got that mezzanine underneath. I've got 44,000 people that are going to be seated in this stadium as of right now. And I still have another layer of upper deck to kind of scrub in up here, which, that'll get me pretty close to capacity. Now, one thing that you'll see is that, if you do get over the maximum number of people, it'll start to basically have a bunch of empty seats. If you run into that, what I typically do is I'll erase some of the stands back here, back behind the batter's eye, because I'd rather have the empty seats there than, maybe up in, camera view. But there she is, coming together pretty good. I'm going to put in the rest of these upper deck stands, and on the next video, we'll get into roof, and then from there, we'll get working on the outside. So hope you're enjoying so far. Catch you next time.